we're live right now, although by the time you're watching this, we may not be. You've got to figure that part out. Tonight, we're gonna explore some of the most harrowing calls, because 911 operators sometimes take 911 calls from their own family members. All that and what it means for your weekend on the Comm Center.
City council members have announced their plan to disband the Minneapolis Police Department.
We're calling for defunding the police.
Shootings in New York City have more than doubled this year.
Wake up, America. Happy New Year. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who are called by a small town sheriff when a local librarian discovers the secret to time travel, but only wants to use it to change the library's Wi-Fi password to something less 9/11 cringy. I'm John. I'm an active 911 dispatcher. Been doing that almost 10 years, just shy of 10 years. Joined, as always, by our host, former detective, former policeman officer, Andrew Baxter, Drew Breezy, the man who made detective on the day of his retirement. We're back for the first time in 2025, celebrating, something like 3 years together if you don't put them all in a row or something. Drew, how are you doing?
Hey, it was kind of cool today that when I was editing this episode, I did a throwback to one of our first episodes. I mean, it was like episode 17 or something. Mm-hmm. And we're the exact same, same technical difficulties, same droning on and on.
It's important not to show growth. That way people they know that they're on brand. Yeah. That way it's Comm Center. It's not some other show,
Yeah. It's come for the Sarah Boone, stay for the
Carly Greer.
The Carly Greer and the enchanting banter between John and I, which is disallowed by most YouTube algorithms. Yeah. I think tonight, John, what we're doing is, and if we had this right, I think we even talked about this before. I'm not sure. I'm never fully sure what we talked about, but I think what we're going to do is just go through the show, probably zip right through. This is kind of like a new thing for 2025. Go through the show, zip right through. By the way, I'm going to establish a playlist for members only of just the bare assets.
Cool.
Just the assets, just the little videos that we show that we comment on. It won't be us. You won't have to put up with us. You won't have us to kick around.
Sounds kind of sexy. I like it.
Right. So bare assets coming. So what I think tonight we'll do is we'll just jump right into the calls that we're going to deal with, that we're going to talk about. Have a little discussion maybe in between each one, maybe not. Hopefully we'll have a lively discussion on, wherever we normally have lively discussion from. Then I think we'll just end it and then do a members only, like what you used to call the after show. We'll call it the after show as well.
Bringing it back. That'll be exciting.
Bringing it back in 25. So
that way people will get to comment on what we're about to present, and I don't necessarily have to say anything.
Yeah.
It's like crowdsourcing our own content and monetizing it.
Yeah, basically. That's basically it.
I love it.
All right. So, and I'm glad that you mentioned a time machine, because we've been inundated recently with episodes of Peabody and Sherman and the Wayback Machine. So we are, let's just get this underway. What do you say?
Let's just do it.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. We have a place, don't forget. And that's where we are.
Oh, I like being inside the little square.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's cool.
A 16-year-old girl robbed at gunpoint, locked in a freezer while working at McDonald's in New Orleans.
So the teen managed to call 911, and the comforting voice she needed more than ever was on the other line. WDSU investigative reporter Aubrey Killian has her exclusive interview and got copies of that surveillance video and the 911 call. Aubrey.
Hey, Gina. So this story, it's pretty incredible. So Tania Hill thought she was going to be killed the night of October 17th. She was locked in the freezer, but was able to calm down and called 911. That familiar voice on the other end of the line, it was her mother, a 911 call taker.
Mama, please hurry up. She got a gun.
It's a desperate call for help.
We're gonna hurry. Give me a description.
She got a mask on. She got somebody outside. And she got us in the freezer, Mama. Please.
You in the freezer?
Yes, she has us in the freezer.
16-year-old Trainee Hill was working at this McDonald's on South Claiborne. This surveillance video WDSU obtained shows when she says an armed woman came in and locked her and other staff in the freezer and robbed the McDonald's.
I was really, really, really scared because I would have never imagined that at my first job, I would be getting robbed, let alone having a gun pointed at me.
Trainee was able to remain calm. She had her phone on her and dialed 911 from inside the freezer.
I was very worried because I didn't want my mama to have to bury her youngest child. So knowing that I could have lost my life, but she saved my life, I was very happy.
It was like Terry.
Her mother, Terry Clark, is an assistant operations manager.
I was in a state of shock.
Terry was set to be off, but decided to stay late and help out staff.
She said McDonald's, so I'm saying, what is your location at McDonald's? It's me, Tania, on Claiborne. Mama, help.
Terry was able to keep her daughter calm and provide critical information to get NOPD on scene.
Where it broke me down was when my child said, we're in the freezer. And I said, in the freezer, while I was taking a call, tears coming down my face, but I'm still trying to do my job. And I did my job to the best of my ability.
Once NOPD was on scene, so was Terry. She needed to make sure that her daughter was okay. And the next day, Terry was back at work.
If I could clone Terry, I would. And I just remind everybody that there are people under the headset that have feelings, that have emotion, and we are committed to your safety, believe it or not, 365 days of the year, even when it's our own child.
That's my precious angel.
Aww.
Oh, I got lipstick on me.
Terry Clark has one crucial message to you. She says when you dial 911, answer all of the questions, just like her daughter did. Sula, back to you.
Wow, what an incredible story. Aubrey Killian, thank you so much
out.
for that. OPCD also says their staff vacancy rate has dropped by 25%, and for the first time in over a year, they are seeing an increase in the improvements of call answer times to meet national standard times over the prior year. They are also proposing a 5% raise for staff at OPCD.
All right, we're going to pause, I think.
Let's pause.
That was 2022. And they're just, they were just meeting staffing levels at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that they still are. Obviously, we can't ignore what happened in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, which was actually New Year's Day, because it was 3 a.m. So, we pray for those souls that were taken from us. And I think this is kind of more of a, just like, not to get too serious, but I think we all need to get our stuff together here. Cops, firefighters, dispatchers, and get on the same page, because that was 3 hours into 2025 and that happened. I think it's going to be a pretty long year. So I would definitely hope that we can all start communicating a little bit better and start including the dispatchers and the communications people in the planning of all this stuff, because that's where all the information is going to come in. I don't know that there were 911 calls on this one, to be honest. I think that I think it happened right in front of the officers, and they were communicating. But there's a ton of coordination that goes on once something like this goes down.
I would guess that there were plenty, because people dial 911 sort of instinctively.
Yeah,
this call was a fun one though. This 911 operator got to get a lot of the credibility that we are so looking for when we're on a phone call. That when someone dials 911, this is your first burglary, your first robbery, but it's not mine. I know exactly what I need to ask from you and when. And of course, the operator's tip to the public was answer all the questions. That's exactly the tip that I would get if the media ever asked me what tip I would give the public is. We are here asking questions. We know what we need to know, and we can skip past some of your feelings and your story time and get you the help that you need faster, which is ultimately why you're calling.
16-year-old kid worried about her mother burying her. That's pretty intense.
That was a heavy remark. Yeah, you could tell that her mom's probably dealt with a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah, and you know, like it hits close to home in a sense because my nephew is a fast food manager or a restaurant manager, and he was robbed at gunpoint. And like I don't think you think about the mortality until something like that happens. I mean, obviously it's in the back of your mind, but you don't know how you're going to handle it until you have to handle it. So that's pretty heavy stuff for her, and it was pretty playful at the end. Her mom kissed her, and she's like, "Oh, you got a lipstick on me." Just like a sweet little family, and the kid just trying to go to work, but 16 years old at the McDonald's in the freezer because somebody's robbing them at gunpoint. Criminals have no shame, obviously. And if I'm not mistaken, by the way, oh no, maybe that was Baton Rouge. Warwick Dunn, as we always end by throwing out some old football players, but Warwick Dunn's mother was a police officer that was killed off duty working in a Chinese restaurant, but I think it was in Baton Rouge. I don't think it was in New Orleans. I could be mistaken.
It's nice that this one has a happy ending, but you're right that a criminal would, I presume there was a weapon in this one, but round up some underage girls and throw them in the freezer. It's all fairly unnecessary, but I'm glad it turned out okay and that they seemed happy at the end. It obviously could have gone the other direction.
Yeah. So also, like the overarching point of all of these calls is to pay particular attention to how what Grace Under Pressure looks like, because she's even saying, "Yeah, I had tears streaming down my face." I'll tell you what, if I were that, I don't know if I were that 16-year-old girl when she said, like, "We're in the freezer, Mama," and she's like, "You're in the freezer," like that's when the mama bear kicked in, I think. I would almost be like, "Hey, my mom's on the phone. She wants to talk to you," and they'd probably leave. You know what I mean? I think they'd be afraid enough of her to.
I think that's the ultimate test, though, of how much do you trust and respect your police officers. There's, like you said, Mama Bear, there's nothing more primal or instinctual than a bond between a mother and a child. And now it's, you have to stay at your job. You can't go rescue your daughter. You have to send someone else to do it. Well, 911 dispatchers, we tend to trust our officers. We think they're good enough for someone else. Are they good enough for our family? I think that's the test.
Yep. Do unto others. I mean, we talk about it all the time. That's, you and I have shared that since minute one. It's the golden rule. It's biblical. It's also kindergartenal because I learned it in Mrs. Siemens' class in kindergarten. Do unto others as you wish them to do unto you. And that's just not how the world works right now.
No.
I'm hoping we can kind of get back to some of that.
All right, number 4.
Number 4.
Where did we put it? How do you get it in the box, Drew? There we go. I want to be in the box before we start. Let's do it.
.911 operators have one of the most stressful jobs in the world, helping people during their worst times. But for one woman, an emergency over the weekend hit close to home, and we mean literally.
Yeah, the dispatcher works in Madison County. That's about 100 miles north of Houston. When she picked up that 911 call, the person on the other end of the line was a familiar one. Sarah Dauncey joining us now with that shocking 911 call.
Absolutely, guys. It truly was an unimaginable scenario. A mother who works as a 911 operator for the Madison County Sheriff's Office took what might have been the most surreal call of her career when she recognized the voice on the other line.
911, what's your emergency?
Mommy, what? It's Cassidy. The house is on fire.
Your house is on fire, Cassidy?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on? Tell me what's happening.
Madison County 911 dispatcher Layla Ray clearly did not expect to hear her own daughter on the other line telling her their home was in flames.
The back porch, I don't know.
Okay, like, is your father awake?
Yes, they're over by the fire hose, the thing.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to get somebody out to you, okay?
But she kept calm and made sure her husband and children were out of the house.
Mommy, it's you. Let's go, brother.
All right. Calm down. I've already got somebody en route, okay?
The call lasted about 5 minutes, with Layla calling the fire department for help, all while telling her kids what to do, even breaking up an argument between her 2 little ones.
If you two don't stop fighting, I swear to God.
Yeah, mom mode still in full effect there. Unfortunately, the whole family got out okay, but they did lose just about everything they own, including their home.
Well, that just gives me chills.
That was surreal.
It really was.
Yeah.
And the kids were fighting, of course.
During the fire. Break it up, you two.
Anytime there's stress like that.
Yeah, that's right. She handled it the right way.
Thanks, Sarah.
Stop it again. Drew, that was amazing that she got to go into mom mode and tell them to stop fighting. That was sort of funny.
It's just so kids to be fighting in the middle of a house fire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about the full outcome of that because everybody made it out, but the pets did.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a sad one.
I should also mention before you get too far is the inspiration for this. Like John and I have been joking for a steady 2 years and change about.
Are you about to come out as my father? Because I am ready.
That's not until Father's Day, John, and we're not going to have that discussion until then, until I get my gift.
I want my money. I want my child support.
We have always joked that well, it's got 911 in the title. I mean, people will see an article that says something about 911 and send it to us and expect us to do a full breakdown on it, which is fine. Just keep them coming. But we kind of have to vet it to give you quality stuff. And I got something like that this week, or last week rather. And I saved it for last because I want to kind of shed some light on the full case, on the full details. But there's bonus after that even. But that's the inspiration for this. So we're doing the top 5 times a 911 operator has answered the emergency call of their own family. And I had a couple fires to choose from, John, but I ended up picking that one. There was one just not more than a couple months ago in Wisconsin, I think.
What's extraordinary is that someone at my own agency answered a phone call for his own house being on fire once, and he got the hell out of there. He went home and got all his stuff out, which is probably a good idea. He was a collector of firearms, and there was probably a lot of hazardous material in there. And telling the fire department where all that would be at would probably be a smart idea. But it's just amazing because we can be at work, and the stuff that's going on at home can affect us at work. And again, just that feeling of being trapped. I've considered it before, what would happen if I took a very bad call from someone I knew and how devastating that would be. But so far, I'm pleased that these dispatchers are able to keep their stuff together. And worrying about your daughter in the freezer is one thing. Knowing for sure that you're going to lose your house, with a fully involved house, a fully involved structure fire, the best thing we can do in those cases is prevent other exposures, other houses from catching on fire, hopefully save the pets. But obviously that was a very bad fire if they weren't able to do that. True.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of pets in there. I think that was part of the issue. Here's a funny little story for you, John, an anecdote, if you will, but part of my authenticity that I'm trying to bring out. I was sitting eating lunch with one of my partners way back when I was in narcotics, when I first made it over to narcotics. Now, you got to remember this was in the mid-1990s, so we were still on pager. We weren't even in cell phones yet. Some of us had cell phones, but mostly we operated by pager. And we were sitting at dinner at a TGI Fridays, at lunch, dinner, whatever.
And you get a text that just says boobies when you flip it upside down, so you know to call your partner.
Right, 99009. Doesn't that say boob?
I don't know.
Shell Oil. So we were sitting there having dinner. And he gets his text from home, and it's got 911 after it. And he slams his hand on the table. He was like, "I effing told them to never call me with that 911 bullshit unless the house is on fire." So he gets up, he goes to the payphone in the TGI Fridays, and calls home, and then he comes back to the table, completely red-faced, kind of laughing, and said, "My fucking house is on fire."
Oh, geez.
So, it was just a small fire in the dryer. I guess they got it figured out, but he did finish his jalapeno poppers.
I was going to say, you got to get the spinach and artichoke dip to go at that point.
Yeah. The crab puffs.
That story didn't go the way I thought that you would. I thought that even back then that you would have a sensitivity towards appropriating 911 culture and using it on a pager would be inappropriate. I don't know.
Yeah, we used to get the lecture after I left the comm center. We used to get the lecture all the time because then it became a wave of people using that 911 on the pager, but they would front load the 911, so they would end up calling 911. It was like the pre-butt dial. You know what I mean? It was the precursor to the butt dial, basically.
I carried a pager for a short amount of time, and not once did it ever go off. I wasn't sure that it worked.
It probably didn't.
Probably didn't.
Nope. I was only so I don't know if this helps or hurts, but I was only paged by the people that love me, John. So.
Oh, that's why nobody ever paged me. It probably worked in the same system here.
All right, we're gonna go onward
to number 3. Let's do it.
Number 3.
I'll let you do it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were waiting for me. Okay. Dispatcher in training.
In this morning's Health Watch, a 911 dispatcher in training got the shock of his life when a call came in from a distraught mom who he soon realized was his wife, reporting that their 6-month-old son was choking.
What did you do in her?
Jana Scott was noticeably upset when she called 911 on February 4th. As luck would have it, her husband, Chris Scott, was the dispatcher who answered her call.
911, what are you reporting?
Chris, he's choking on something.
Who is?
Chris, in training for a dispatcher job, says he was nervous but relied on his military training as an Iraq war vet to stay calm.
Pick up the baby and turn him on his face down so he's lying along your forearm, okay?
Okay.
Use the heel of your hand and strike the back 5 times right between the shoulder blades. Do that and come back to the phone, okay?
Okay.
It worked, and Jacob was fine.
A piece of plastic. That's how they picked everything up.
Yeah, you did a really good job, all right?
Okay.
Wow. Joining us exclusively, Chris and Jenna Scott and their baby boy, Jacob. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Look at that face. Jenna, I can't imagine how I would feel if my little boy was in trouble like that at home. What went through your mind at that moment?
I don't remember. I turned him upside down.
If this interview is any indication, I know exactly what happened.
It did not work. I grabbed the phone and I called 911, hoping that my husband would answer.
Not that I wouldn't panic if my infant was choking.
And tell me what to do. And, well, as soon as I heard his voice, I felt better. It definitely was a big scare.
Because his voice, your voice, Chris, was so amazingly calm. I would think that if my son was in trouble, that would up the pressure and I might be a little bit more agitated. But how did you remain so calm?
You know, I'm normally a calm person as it is, laid back and relaxed. And I think with my training with my work and training with military, just staying calm under pressure, and that's what helped me. And I try to stay as calm as possible just because if I was calm, she could hear that and it would make her feel better and not panic too much.
You knew instantly that it was them.
I knew as soon as she said it was Jacob, it was them, because I recognized her voice.
How did this happen, Jenna? Because I know that you say you had just vacuumed, you thought everything was clean.
Well, the day before he got his shots, and I gave him some infant Tylenol, and the plastic wrap from it I put on the windowsill. I have a cat, so I guess she threw it down right on the wall where his toys are, so in between his toys I did not see it.
Right.
Well, he found it though.
And that could happen to anyone because look, this is so easy to miss. A vacuum cleaner could miss this in a second. And that's the important message we want to send to parents. Yeah. Call 911 right away. Hopefully you get an operator like Chris. You were in Iraq when Jacob was born.
Right.
You missed his birth. You just got back in September. Do you feel like you were meant to come back in time to do this most important mission of all?
No, I mean, anybody could have gotten this call, and anybody in the room, if they would have gotten it, it would have happened, the same results. I mean, I just feel like I was just doing my job, and just by chance I got my wife when she called.
Humble, huh, Jenna?
Yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so blessed. I can rely on him in any situation, so that is great.
Thank you so much to all of you, and God bless you, little boy.
You gonna say bye?
Hope my little.
It is proof that cats are trying to kill all children, is it not?
I think it's proof undeniable. That's a sweet story. This guy's lying, though. If he says that he wasn't more upset, I'm sorry. Babies choking is, I don't even have children. It's the scariest call that we can take because we know that a child cannot hold their breath long and the baby be unconscious. And the biggest factor in us being successful in those cases are parents. And are they going to be locked in? Or are they going to be calm and they're going to listen to direction? Or are they going to be absolute space cadets? And we get both of those, and we have to fight our way through sometimes the parents to get through to the kids to give them the best care. And of course, we send everybody. I don't know if you remember, Drew, but at the end of last year, I told you the story about one of my coworkers. She and I helped prevent an officer-involved shooting that may have been planned by a suspect. Well, the week before I went on vacation, I was supposed to be answering 911 phone calls, and I didn't answer this one. And she took a 911 phone call for a baby being born. It was an at-home birth with a midwife. But the baby came out cyanotic, which means blue lips, blue nail beds. The baby's not getting enough oxygen, and not responsive, which is the scariest call you could possibly get. And she's brand new, and she handled it like a total champ. And the dad was going nuts, and we got everybody there. And what's interesting on this call, if not all of that was interesting, but we had a police officer call us right as soon as it was over to tell us that the baby was fine, which is really nice.
Wow. I mean, that's, I consider that a sign of progress, because we know that one of the major obstacles you face as a 911 operator and
is how to dodge certain calls.
Is how to not have to answer the phone. No, is the closure aspect of some of these calls. So like, guys like John will get these calls and it'll be a baby choking, and they'll do the best they can, but emergency people will arrive. They'll hang up the phone because the emergency people are there, and it leaves the dispatcher just kind of in a state of fill in the blank sometimes for the rest of their lives. And it happens on, when people take their lives or when people take other people's lives, and like they don't get to hear what actually happened in the whole story. Or even the opposite, like you might be talking on the phone with somebody, John, that was just in a car accident. They sound fine, and then all of a sudden you start seeing all these units headed that way or showing up, and next thing you know, they're working a fatality, and you're like, who died out there?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the guy that you talked to. Like they were probably just having that moment of clarity before the brain bleed or whatever. And there's really no closure for dispatchers like that. I mean, there's no formal mechanism. I think that should change. I think that would do some great things for the mental health and well-being of these dispatchers, and hopefully address some of the retention issues, which may be based in bad, mental health practices. But yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, John. I mean, you dodged the big one. And
I did. I was lucky on that one, but my boss was walking out the door, and when he saw us all of a sudden, he saw the look of panic on my face for the first time in 10 years. He turned around and went back into his office. So my boss also did not dodge that. So I just wanted to say, even though I would never tell that person, that other dispatcher, that I even have a podcast, that I'm very proud of her, and that she's making my job a lot easier. And what's amazing is that after it was all over, she had some stress, and we had some feedback about how it went, because technically, some stuff didn't work for her, and she was stressed out the whole time, which I understand. And so we had kind of a feedback session on how it could go better next time. And I said, I got to be honest with you. I've been here almost 10 years. I've never had a childbirth in progress call. And she goes, oh, I've had 3. So it's like she's only been here 2 years, and she's already been delivering lots of babies. So it seems like certain people run in certain call types that just get a lot of that going for them. But
do you think that there's some kind of divine intervention? Maybe not necessarily talking about that case or your cases, but like this poor girl who probably froze when the baby was choking. She picks up the phone and dials 911. She's hoping that her husband gets on the phone.
Yeah.
And gets him. And the husband is probably thinking it's probably second nature to him to just, walk her through it, keep calm, keep her calm, and keep the instructions calm.
Maybe he felt better that he was involved. That could be something in the Army where, if you're a unit nearby you was under fire, but you're not, you might feel more anxious. Maybe he felt good because he was there and could get involved with it. It's possible.
Yeah. Just, I mean, sometimes I think that your guy, and you know, this goes back to a long time ago, John, and you know, I'm not going to share too much of the private conversation we had, but I kind of told him, like, to make him feel better about something. I do believe that you're chosen as a 911 dispatcher to be the last voice somebody hears, or to be the saving grace, or the saving voice that you know, somebody's listening to, because it's exactly what they need to hear at that moment. And it's, you know, it's the tone and the timbre and the everything in your voice that's either keeping them calm or that's comforting them when they're on their way out or whatever. I truly believe that there's a switchboard upstairs somewhere.
I think so too. I've been told before too that I'll take a 911 call that, for whatever reason, I'm just equipped to deal with that, maybe more than another person in the center is. Or I see the same thing. I'll see someone who can handle a call better than me, and I'll even say to them, "I'm so glad that you got that call instead of me," because usually the answer to the end of that joke is, "I would have been way more rude to them." But no, I have experienced calls both for myself and seen them in other people where there seems to be a little bit more than just random fake going on. I believe that.
Right. All right, good. So we
number
agree.
3 or number
Yeah,
2? We're already
number
number 2.
two.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm still here.
Little Maverick.
An emergency dispatcher put to the test as she takes a 911 call from her very own home with her son's life at stake. KPRC 3's Claire DeWan, tell us what happens.
Little Maverick was in the bedroom playing as his father moved furniture into the living room. When Robert Kimball returned, he knew something was wrong.
Tried to contact him, see what's going on, realized he was choking.
Kimball, a former orderly, tried to dislodge a metal washer that the infant had swallowed without any success.
As it progressed and he started having more trouble breathing, it got to a bright red, and then he just went pale in the face.
Kimball decided to call 911 with his cell phone. On the other end was his fiancée and a fellow dispatcher. He gave his personal information, including home address. That's when the dispatcher realized it was her own son who needed medical help.
Mommy mode kind of hit, like, that's my son. I panicked. Then I'm like, you know what? I got to get him the help that he absolutely needs.
Brittany Melcher's maternal instincts gave way to training and composure, despite her personal stake in the 911 call.
Being behind the console and in a room that you don't have any interaction with anyone, you see firsthand now that you're someone's lifeline. You're their guardian angel in those few seconds that you're on the phone with them.
She sent paramedics to her own home. They arrived just before Kimball was able to clear Maverick's airway of the washer, the one seen here in this x-ray. Emotions came later.
I'm very protective over him. And it definitely hit me when knowing that that happened while I was watching him.
And for Melcher, realizing the impact of her everyday job.
We actually help make the lives of everybody that calls us so much better.
In this case, that of her very own family. Yeah. In Marysville, Claire DeWan, KPRC.
Maybe it takes that sometime. This is what this is another reason why I like doing this show, John. Because if we attract a dispatcher or two and we kind of like pick their heads up a little bit and say, this is you, this is what you do. This is like, you know, this is the impact you actually have. You just don't hear it. People keep it a secret from you for whatever reason. They don't, you know, they don't want you to be first responders. Or they don't want you to, because it threatens their whatever. But, you know, she was faced with the mortality of her own child. And she's like, you know, this really clicks now. Like, this is the ultimate golden rule here. This is why we treat people the way we treat people, you know, because they need to hear from us.
I just want to make it clear that I only do this show for the money and the women. Which means this will be my last episode of Comm Center. No, I think it's amazing what you're talking about. Actually, I had a thought about that today. My boss is looking at the prospect of retirement, and he's been at 911 since 1992 when the doors opened. And I thought about what it would be like when he left, looking back on a career that long. And he's an administrator, like what the position that you're in, but he was a dispatcher. And I wondered, does he look back and see all the politics, all the headaches, all the phone calls, all the angry fire chiefs, all the everything that you have to do with your partner agencies? Will he look back on all of it and see a life that in a career that mattered because he committed himself to people, or is it all just going to get lost in every aspect of the job that's not the most fun? And so I think dispatchers are facing the same thing just every day when they go home at the end of the shift. You know, they're ragged, they're run down, they had a bad call. And it's because they don't get to see that, they don't get to see that moment when someone gets extricated out of a burning car. Or they don't get to see that moment when, name 3 other positive things that can happen in a shift. They don't get to be there for that. And they don't get to see that heroic moment, and they don't get the credit as the hero either, even though they helped arrange the meeting. And I think it would go a long way if dispatchers just knew that every day that when they punched out, that the world was a better place, because not only because a 911 dispatcher was in it in general, but maybe because they were chosen specifically, or because they work a little bit harder than another dispatcher. I think that that's possible too. You can't just put somebody in the seat, Drew. It's not just a warm body. You have to have somebody who cares for them to be an asset.
And that's the importance of their well-being. Like you have to make sure that they're well adjusted, because it's a vital role. It's like, it's time that we, acknowledge this to be a vital role. But my like onboarding, I think they call it in the corporate world, but my onboarding speech always included, like, look, these cops out there, they do a lot of heroic stuff, and people stop them and compliment them all the time. Nobody really calls 911 to say, hey, thank you for the job that you're doing. And you're right. The no pun intended, the flaming hot fire chief who's upset over this, or because you didn't call his truck before you called that guy, and you deal with nothing but complaints like that. It gets lost. The good things become the minutia. Like that, when you only hear when you've made a mistake, you tend to forget about, 97% of the time I'm doing something to change somebody's life. And the onboarding speech I used to give was that simple. Like, these people don't realize sometimes that you have a 100% chance of hearing something traumatic when you walk through these doors, 100% chance. You also have a 100% chance of changing somebody's life today. And when you go home, you probably don't think of it that way, but you've affected somebody, sometimes great, sometimes not so great. But you have definitely, touched the lives of people just by showing up to work. And that's not compensation enough, because by the way, they're not told that enough.
Somebody called me today and they needed an ambulance and they really needed help. And I got yelled at because I did not indicate whether it was North Maple Street or South Maple Street. So that is what I took out of it as the shift ended. Whoops.
I'm seeing a production note here. Please don't call 911 just to thank people. Find the non-emergency number and call.
I think at a certain point in my career, I broke even and I would have accepted that, but now I no longer will.
Yeah. I mean, if your house is on fire or something and you're on the way out safely,
if my house is on fire, dial 911 and then compliment me. That would be
yeah. I mean, you can compliment at that point. Like, oh my God, this is a horrible crash I'm witnessing. By the way, you guys do a phenomenal job, and you don't hear enough. Anyway, if you can slip it into conversation that way.
Should we see the number 1 time? I'm excited. I like lists.
Okay, look.
This
is something called a listicle. No, we're not going to skip it because we got to get to the bonus one. The bonus one, I think, is money. But number 1 is the reason why I think you and I both have been inundated with this call recently. Like, I think it made its rounds on TikTok, and when you research it to the level that you want to research something on TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. You know my stance. But it'll be banned soon. We don't know. But it made it sound like this occurred in December, because it did occur in December of 2006.
Oh.
So go ahead and play this viral moment.
We'll go back in time to when I was in college.
Oop.
Charleston County Emergency Services, Operator 29, location of your emergency.
Diane?
Yeah.
This is Caitlin.
Yeah.
Bruce just got shot.
Are you serious? Where?
I'm serious. Bruce just got shot in the side.
On any other day, a 911 call about a shooting is nothing unusual for dispatchers in Charleston County. But on December 6th, Diane Lamb's job turned personal.
Your mom is the operator. Your mom's the operator.
Don't hang up.
Her son Bruce, seen here, had been shot.
This is Charleston County EMS.
Yes.
I need you to send an ambulance to my house at 130 Street.
After getting medics on the way, she let herself be a mother for just a moment.
If he dies, I want to talk to him before he dies.
Bruce, talk to Mama.
Put him on the phone.
Hello?
Bruce?
Yeah.
Hey, I love you. Now listen. Okay. Jesus is going to take care of you, okay? You'll be saved. You just need to calm down and just focus on that, okay?
Somehow, Diane was able to stay calm and tell her son's friends how to control the bleeding.
Press down on that wound, okay? Okay, honey, take a breath. Take a breath, okay? You can do this. You can do this, okay?
He's puking, Mama. He's puking.
Roll him on his side.
Roll on your side.
Roll him on his side and clean it out.
After a terrifying 12-minute call, Diane talked to her son one more time before he was rushed to the hospital.
Bruce?
Yeah.
I love you, baby.
I love you.
Listen to me. Talk to Jesus.
Huh?
Talk to Jesus.
I am.
Ask him to save you and do it and just believe it, okay? Do you hear me?
I love you.
8 inches of Bruce's small intestine were removed along with his appendix. While the bullet is still lodged close to his vertebrae, Diane believes it was a miracle she got the call that saved her son's life.
Okay, so
that's
Bruce,
amazing.
Yeah, just the way she was calm, the way it all kicked in. She knew what had to be done, and she also knew that this is what I say is probably about 85 to 90% of the stress of a dispatcher. It's not just hearing, what's going on in the background or the gunshots or whatever. It's not being able to reach through the phone and hold that compress on somebody's side, or you have no control over it whatsoever. And if people are in a panic and freaking out and you can't get their attention, or you can't get them to, toe the line or do what you're asking them to do, or do CPR or whatever, it's just like, it's the weight of the world on your shoulders, isn't it? I mean, don't you feel that way sometimes?
I definitely do, particularly with heavy calls like the one I mentioned earlier with the baby. But this dispatcher is amazing because her level of care is complete. She's taking care of their emotional needs. She's taking care of the evolving medical needs, putting pressure on the wound. If he's throwing up, making sure to put him in the recovery position to keep him from aspirating. Helping with his emotional security, even his spirituality, like making sure that he's focused on the right things that he needs to be on mentally. Her care is complete for this patient, her son, and her family. And I can't imagine just going on with the rest of your shift after that. I'm sure, and I hope that she was excused to leave after that. But how do you continue after that? Because all of she's using everything that she has as a mom and as a dispatcher. She's pedal to the metal all the way going. How does she keep that going after that? She had to have been so tired after the adrenaline crash, but still so worried about her son because his fate wasn't assured, even if everything with the ambulance and any other assets, even if that all went okay, she had to be worrying so much. So I'm just really proud of her because she represents kind of the best of what we could do.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it bore repeating. Like, I wanted the world to see that because I don't think I'd seen that before, to be honest. But when I started doing the research on it, I was like, "There's something's not right about this." Just the way the grainy video and all that, and come to find out, this was in 2006. It must resurface every once in a while. There's a few calls that do that. The pizza one resurfaces every once in a while, but the way she handled the A to Z, just like you described, John, it was amazing. She she prepared him for what could be the worst.
Mhm.
And at the same time, there's no way she couldn't be preparing herself.
I was going to say the same thing. She said, I wanted to talk to him in case he dies. She wanted to,
Right.
she wanted to avail herself of that opportunity. And,
Yeah.
and she did it. It's just, it's extraordinary to see. It's an extraordinary call. And it's, I pray it's a once in a lifetime type of call.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go honorable mention on this one. John, you can remove us completely from the screen for this if you want, because
Let's be removed completely.
17th, she was locked in the freezer, but was able to
end up.
Intestine were removed along with his appendix.
Son as a police officer. One shows the wrong dispatcher. It shows the dispatcher from the call before that we covered, actually. So it's caveat emptor when you see these 911 calls on there. Obviously, John, we're the authentic source for all 911 calls. So come to us.
I agree. Can we show it again, or did we miss it, or what happened there?
What do you mean? No. We're gonna. It's ready now.
All right, now it's ready, everyone. So let's go ahead and play it, and then let's have reactions as though it was the first time.
Remove us.
Let's be completely removed. Am I just supposed to?
No. This is the bonus content I'm talking about. Like what I just described was the viral video. This right here, though, beginning now, is Ricardo Martinez from I Am 911. He was in our show episode 17.
I remember that.
And he does have he has an excellent example, an excellent story. Is that kind of what precipitated your hashtag? What was your light bulb moment in all of that?
So if I can say really quick, when I finished off my career in Frostproof, every time I go back to Florida, I visit the spot where the building used to be, and I reflect on where I started every time. And, I shed a couple tears, right? Because there's a lot that happened there. It's where I started. When I left from there, I ended up moving back to Southwest Michigan, and I worked at the county that I grew up in, which is Allegan County Central Dispatch. So as everyone knows who's watching this, eventually you're going to end up taking calls from people that you know. So it's 2007. And the reason I mention these stories too is because this story that I'm going to tell you is specifically in the book. It's page 7. And all of this adds up to the movement. Imagine listening, all of it. So 2007, my grandmother is now living in Michigan. She's living with one of my aunts, living in the county that I'm dispatching for. She's in hospice care. And this night, all of my family are over there at my aunt's house. We know that she's getting close. And I'm in dispatch. It's about 3:30 in the morning. And it was already determined, or decided rather, that if my grandmother passed while I was in dispatch, I could leave. I would be able to leave. So I'm sitting on backup phones and radios. I'm not taking all of the main calls. So my partner on phones ends up getting up and says, Ricardo, I'm going to go to the break room really quick. Are you good? And I said, yeah, I'm good. There's nothing going on anyway, which you're kind of tempting fate when you say something like that, right? You might as well, right. You might as well be saying the Q word in dispatch and everything goes to hell. So she goes into the break room. As soon as the door shuts, the phone rings. I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it. But as the phone is ringing, or it comes in, now this was an old phone system that we had. They've got a new one now. But at that time, if you waited like half a ring, then the information showed up on the screen. Now, I never hesitate to pick up the phone. But this ring, for whatever reason, seemed different. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. And I wait that second, half second, whatever it is. to see the information pop up on the screen. And when it does, it's my mom's cell phone number. So I pick up the phone and I say, Allegan 911, where's your emergency? And it's my cousin. And she says, Richie? And I said, yeah. And she goes, Grandma just died. And I went through everything, right? Get everybody out there. And I left to go be with my family. Now, while I was heading over there, though, I thought, what are the odds? What are the odds that I would be the one to take that call? That as soon as that door shut, the phone rang. What are the odds? It's crazy. And I've told the story many times, and some people had said it was a blessing. And it took a little while for me to understand that and realize it. Because here's the thing, and it's kind of poetic. My grandmother had lived with my parents since before my siblings and I were born. So she was literally there for me when I was born. And I was there for her when she passed away.
If you don't recognize Ricardo Martinez, he is the king of 911. He's done so much for the profession. He has his own company. He started as a dispatcher, obviously, as you heard, but he started the hashtag I am 911 movement. So if you put that hashtag in any of your socials and anything that comes up, that's you're going to see dispatcher stories. You're going to see a bunch of dispatcher, related stories, to the point that he assembled when he would go to these conferences that he was doing, like APCO or NINA, where he was presenting. He would say, okay, if you want to come forward and give an I am 911 story, or if you just want to write it down. So he would have this collection of paper, like at the end of every session, and he assembled them in a book and, overlaid them on top of, nice photographs, stock photographs and stuff. And he made 2 books, one of which John is probably looking for right now.
I'm looking for it.
I'm looking for mine too. He now has a second volume out. It's called Imagine Listening. And it's, it's like your worst day is our everyday. And, I gave that to a close friend of the show's. His name is Jim from Florida. And I'm telling you, there it is right there. Imagine Listening. John's holding it. That's the old version, by the way. If you see that version on Amazon, don't buy it.
I call it the classic version.
Yeah, that's the classic version. Buy the new color, with the darker color, because I think he had a falling out with the printing people. I think they were taking a little bit too much from him. I don't know that to be true. I know that he had some kind of falling out. But at any rate, because we know how shady, Anyway, so he
save it for the after show.
So he had a second volume that he published. He also did, and you can hear Ricardo's voice, like he's got pipes, like most dispatchers, save John, do. He's got great pipes, but he also has a nice audio setup, so I can hear him doing a great audio book. And it turns out he did do an audible version of one of those books, but it's just touching / gut-wrenching / grounding stories of people just like our friend John here, who just write out a call that they experienced that touched them in some way. And when you read these stories, you're just like, I read, full disclosure, I read the book on a flight back from Buffalo or something. It was a couple hours, and it was just it's heavy. And if you're
Buffalo is already pretty depressing. You should have.
Well, that was to cheer me up. But if it hasn't, oh, and by the way, that was like what I edited out of that was the timing of that was that right after I got the call that my mother had passed away. It was just a weird coincidence that we had him on and he told that story. But so anyway, get that book for your family and friends. Get it for yourself. Read it, and you'll see what these people are going through with these. That's why I say he's a pioneer in the profession. He's the one that has kind of lit the match to to like ignite the souls of the people that want to help him, highlight these things. He certainly inspired me to do, enough of this stuff. So.
Yeah, check out the link in the description, which will be there by the time you find it. And click on that, and we'll have a links to that so you could pick up the latest copy if you wanted to do that. Drew, should I take out the show by mentioning other things that I'm supposed to mention every single time? Yes. Or should I go to the Jim from Florida hotline?
Oh, go to the Jim from Florida hotline first.
Folks, this phone number should not be named after him. That's an indication that you're supposed to be calling in. And if you want to be part of the show, you should do that by dialing 848-COM-911. That's 848-266-6911.
Nice.
If you want to call in on our Jim from Florida hotline. So, Jim from Florida, what do you got for us? Happy New Year, by the way, Jim.
Hey, John and Drew, this is Jim from Florida. Just having a good day. I'm listening to music. Having a good day, and I hope you have a great new year. 2025 is going to be the best year yet for the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. Bye.
I appreciate that optimism that's clearly not based on any recent trends or data, but thank you. I appreciate that.
It's based on the volume of phone calls he's made.
If it's based solely on Jim from Florida phone calls, it is going to be the best year ever. Jim, in all sincerity, thank you for calling in. You should not be listening to music. You should be listening to old episodes of Comm Center. Make sure you're downloading those. Make sure your automatic downloads are on. Make sure you're leaving a 5-star rating and review when you are listening to us on Spotify. We would appreciate that. And on iTunes, that's a great way to help the show grow. We are still a podcast, even though we're kind of more a YouTube show these days. Make sure if you are watching on YouTube, you hit like, you hit subscribe, you do all the things that you're supposed to do, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below. This comment should probably be about Jim from Florida. Just, if you want to guess like what his greatest case was, or if you want Jim to replace me, if you want any of those things, go ahead and put that below. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do that at the Comm Center, or What Say Drew. And Drew, what's your other one? Is it True Crime Drew Time?
Drew Crime Official. Drew Crime Official. It's kind of like it's a place where I don't have to worry about the algorithm, so I could just kind of put whatever kind of true crime stuff I want.
Pure Drew. If you want unadulterated Drew that's not trying to appease the algorithmic god.
Right. It ends up being the repository of all Comm Center reels, by the way.
I was going to say, I saw it the other day. I'm like, this is a lot of Comm Center stuff. If you want to follow us on X, you could do that at the Comm Center Pod. Also, we have a Facebook presence if you're still over there. And just as a reminder, soon no one will have TikTok. They were right to ban us, and now America is banning them back. It all worked out fine in the end. Drew, did you still want to do an after show, or did you feel like we covered it well?
I think we covered it well. It's up to you, though. I mean, honestly,
I'll spend a little bit of time with the fans. If fans want to come back, go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're hitting like and subscribe. That's how you can get the notifications that we're about to go live. But this will be meant for members only. We want to give a little treat to the members for hanging in with us all the way into 2025. You've surpassed even my wildest dreams. Drew, I've missed you these past 2 weeks. Don't be fooled by the fact that I did not reach out to you, call you, text you, or anything. I missed you that entire time. Oh, are you doing a bit?
No, well, I was asked if this was a hoodie. It's a Christmas gift from
it's a hoodie.
Yes.
He might also be cosplaying Ted Kaczynski later. We don't know. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to the Comm Center. We appreciate you. We'll catch you on a members only stream here in a little bit. We love you. Good night.
There's an epilogue, guys.
There's an epilogue. There's secret bonus footage. Make sure you get your credit cards out and become members now.